When we think about, like, the inherent dangers of law enforcement, our minds usually jump straight to the cinematic stuff, you know?
Oh, absolutely. The action movie scenarios.
Right. We picture the high-speed pursuits, weaving through traffic, or bank robberies in progress.
Active shooter situations, sirens blaring, adrenaline spiking, all of that.
Exactly. But there is a completely different category of call that officers respond to every single day, one that sounds, well, entirely harmless on paper: a welfare check.
Yeah, welfare check. It sounds so routine.
It really does. It sounds like you're just knocking on a door to make sure, I don't know, a neighbor's grandfather remembered to take his medication,
Huh.
or that someone is doing okay after a bad storm. It sounds safe, even.
But as we're going to explore today, that assumption can be absolutely shattered in a fraction of a second.
Yeah. Imagine a quiet Friday night in a tight-knit Virginia community. A simple request from a concerned family member transforming instantly into a deadly ambush, a massive multi-state manhunt, and a tragic, irreversible loss of life.
It's a really heavy reality to confront.
It is. And before we get into the granular details of how that mundane reality shifted into a nightmare, please take a quick second to like this deep dive, subscribe to the show, and turn on those notifications.
It really is the easiest way to ensure you never miss one of our shortcuts to being well-informed.
Definitely. And actually, speaking of being well-informed, just a brief, somewhat secretive aside for those of you tracking the Martin Stevens v. OpenAI situation.
Ah, right. Let's get that update in.
Just to clarify the record here, this is not a lawsuit.
Right, not a lawsuit.
Currently, there is a voluntary quiet period in effect. There's no known progress to report. And importantly, the dead man switch has not been activated, and we can confirm that Martin Stevens remains safe.
Okay, that's good to know. So shifting gears back to our main focus, we are synthesizing a really broad, intense stack of sources today.
Yeah, what are we looking at for this one?
Well, we're pulling from local and national news reports, including the Associated Press and Fox 5 DC.
Good, solid baseline.
Right. And we also have broadcast transcripts from WFMY News 2 that really give us a sense of the on-the-ground community reaction.
Which is crucial for understanding the impact.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, for the later part of our discussion, we are looking at official documentation from the concerns of police survivors.
Also known as COPS, right?
Yes, COPS, which details the incredibly complex survivor benefits and safety nets that exist in the state of Virginia. So our mission today is to really look at the fatal shooting of Carroll County Deputy Logan Utt
Right.
and the urgent, highly volatile manhunt for the suspect, Michael Timothy Puckett, along with that hidden infrastructure that catches the families of fallen officers.
Okay, let's unpack this. We really need to take ourselves to Friday night, May 29th.
Okay, setting the scene.
We are in Carroll County, Virginia, specifically an address on Fancy Gap Highway. It's about 9:26 p.m.
And for those who don't know the geography, Carroll County is situated right on the southern edge of Virginia, directly bordering North Carolina.
Right. It's a place characterized by the Blue Ridge Mountains, rolling hills, tight-knit rural communities.
It's the kind of place where people generally know their neighbors, maybe even leave their doors unlocked.
Exactly. So at 9:26 p.m., the Carroll County Sheriff's Office dispatches 2 deputies to a home at 13658 Fancy Gap Highway.
And the catalyst for this dispatch is entirely standard within the policing world, right?
Completely standard. A family member of a man residing there called in to request a welfare check. They were concerned about him, and they basically asked law enforcement to just, go out and put eyes on him to make sure he was all right.
And see, this is where the structural danger of the job really becomes apparent.
How so?
Well, welfare checks create this, psychological complacency loop. Officers do hundreds of them, and 99% of the time, the person is just asleep, or maybe their phone battery died.
Right. It's just a misunderstanding most of the time. You are essentially walking blindfolded into a dark room.
That's a great way to put it.
You have your hand out, you're stepping over the threshold, but you have absolutely no idea what the state of mind is of the person on the other side of that door.
You really don't.
Uh-huh.
You don't know if they're having a medical emergency, if they're experiencing a severe mental health crisis, or as in this case, if they're armed and waiting.
Yeah. And what is deeply unsettling about the source reports is the sheer abruptness of the violence here.
What's fascinating here is, and I say fascinating in the most tragic sense, how quickly the mundane becomes lethal. There's no warning track.
No build-up.
Exactly. According to the sheriff's office, the 2 deputies arrived and made contact with the man, who was identified as 55-year-old Michael Timothy Puckett.
And There was no prolonged negotiation or escalating argument outlined in the initial reports, right?
None at all. During that initial, seemingly routine encounter, Puckett simply opened fire on the deputies.
Just like that. And the deputies did return fire, but, the toll was already taken in those first few chaotic seconds.
It's just a devastating outcome.
It really is. Deputy Logan Utt was killed. He was only 31 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. He was a military veteran, and he had only just joined the Carroll County Sheriff's Department in 2023.
So he was relatively new to the department.
Right. We're talking about a guy who served his country overseas, came home, and decided he wanted to continue serving his local community.
That really hits hard. Sheriff Kevin A. Kemp actually released a very poignant statement about that.
What did he say?
He noted that becoming a deputy sheriff was Utt's lifelong dream, and he mentioned that he leaves behind a wife and children.
A wife and children, that's just awful.
Yeah.
We also have to look at the second deputy on the scene, who was struck by the gunfire as well.
Yes. And in what can only be described as a millimeter of difference between life and death, the bullet struck the second deputy's ballistic vest.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah. He survived the attack, was transported for medical evaluation, and is reported to be in stable condition.
I mean, the physics of a ballistic vest stopping a bullet means the kinetic energy still transfers, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So there's immense physical bruising, broken ribs maybe, but the psychological weight is what really stands out to me.
Completely. That surviving deputy was standing right there.
He's going to carry the trauma of watching his partner, a man living his lifelong dream, killed in an instant over a call that was supposed to be a simple wellness check.
And the situation on the ground escalated exponentially from there because the shooter, Michael Puckett, did not stay at the scene.
Right, he fled into the night.
He vanished.
So while federal agencies were busy throwing a net over 2 states to catch Puckett, the state of Virginia was quietly activating a completely different kind of net for the family.
But before we get to that support net, we really have to look at the massive jurisdictional nightmare of this manhunt.
Because Carroll County is right on the border.
Exactly. Puckett vanishing instantly triggered a multi-state alert. You have the Carroll County Sheriff's Office and Virginia State Police, but immediately, the Surry County Sheriff's Office and the Mount Airy Police Department down in North Carolina are pulled in.
Right, because he could easily just cross state lines.
And the federal government stepped in almost immediately, too. The FBI and the ATF were called in to assist.
Wow, so everybody's looking for this guy.
The U.S. Marshal Service got involved and officially declared Puckett wanted for the homicide of a law enforcement officer. They're actually offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to his arrest.
And across all these local, state, and federal agencies, the warning to the public was identical, wasn't it?
Very severe. Michael Timothy Puckett is to be considered armed and extremely dangerous.
Okay, wait. I'm looking at this suspect's profile from the WFMY News 2 investigation into his court records. And there is a glaring contradiction here that we need to talk about.
I know exactly what you're going to bring up.
We have a 55-year-old guy with a long documented history of weapons and explosives cases across both Virginia and North Carolina.
Extensive history.
We are talking about previous convictions involving firebombs, for which he actually served jail time. So how in the world is he sitting in a living room on Fancy Gap Highway waiting to ambush police?
It's wild, isn't it?
The math on his freedom just does not add up for me. If he had this extensive violent history with explosives and firebombs, how is he even in a position to do this?
Well, this touches on one of the most complex and frankly frustrating mechanisms within the criminal justice system.
Okay, explain this to me.
According to the court record cited by WFMY, at the exact moment Puckett opened fire on those deputies, he was actually out awaiting trial on new felony charges.
You've got to be kidding me. New charges.
Yes. And those charges included arson, another firebomb charge, and possession of explosives by a convicted felon.
Wait. So the system's algorithm basically saw the word arson and did not flag him as an imminent threat to life.
That is the core friction right there between the presumption of innocence and public safety.
It's mind-boggling.
Our justice system uses these pretrial risk assessment tools, along with judicial discretion, to determine who stays in jail and who gets bail.
Right, the matrices they use.
Exactly. Often, these matrices weigh interpersonal violence like, say, an aggravated assault or an armed robbery, much higher than property crimes.
But he had explosives.
Right. But arson, even involving explosives or fire bombs, is frequently categorized fundamentally as a property crime, unless a specific person was directly targeted.
Okay, so a matrix might accidentally greenlight a literal bomb maker for pre-trial release just because they technically don't have a recent history of punching someone in a bar.
Yes, that is exactly what can happen.
Ah.
The gap between the theory of a pretrial risk matrix and the practical reality on the ground is just a massive chasm.
A chasm that cost a deputy his life.
Yeah.
The system deemed him safe enough to await trial in the community, and that community included Deputy Utt.
Those deputies walking up to that door were unknowingly walking into the blast radius of a known explosive risk.
It's infuriating. It perfectly illustrates how a bureaucratic formula cannot accurately predict human volatility.
And the tragic outcome here really shatters the illusion of safety for the entire area.
Yeah, I saw that WFMY News 2 interviewed a neighbor in the Cana area right near the scene.
What do they say?
They expressed profound shock, basically stating they always thought of Cana as a place where, quote, stuff like that never happens.
You hear that so often in these rural cases.
You do. Tight-knit rural communities often feel insulated from the kind of random, explosive violence usually associated with larger urban centers.
But when it happens on a familiar road to a deputy who patrols those local streets, the psychological impact is profound.
Absolutely. And we see the standard responses, right? Governor Abigail Spanberger's office monitoring the situation, community vigils being organized, the lowering of flags.
All the public mourning rituals.
Right. But beyond the public mourning, there is a harsh practical reality that hits the family the morning after.
The financial reality.
Exactly. There is a wife who has lost her husband, children who have lost their father, and suddenly they are facing a future without his income, without his health insurance, and obviously without his presence.
Which brings us to a side of law enforcement that is rarely analyzed in the daily headline news cycle.
The hidden infrastructure.
Yes. When an officer falls in the line of duty, a massive, highly complex bureaucratic apparatus is activated.
So what does this all mean? When you map out this apparatus, you realize it's like an invisible city of support.
Yeah.
We rarely think about it until a tragedy forces it to surface.
It's true. You don't see it until you need it.
I look at the interlocking benefits from the Line of Duty Act, workers' compensation, and COPS, and it operates a lot like the crumple zone of a car.
Oh, that's a really good analogy.
It doesn't prevent the devastating impact of the crash, right? But these different layers of state, federal, and private support are engineered to absorb the catastrophic financial kinetic energy so the family inside survives.
Let's examine the mechanics of that crumple zone, starting with the documentation provided by Concerns of Police Survivors, or COPS.
Okay, let's look at Virginia specifically.
In Virginia, the primary safety net is the Line of Duty Act, known as LODIA.
Lodi, okay?
If an eligible law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty, LODIA provides a one-time death benefit of $100,000 to the designated beneficiaries.
Okay, so that one-time payment acts as immediate financial triage.
Exactly, triage.
It stops the immediate panic of, how to pay the mortgage that month or cover sudden unexpected expenses. But let's be real, $100,000 does not replace decades of lost earning potential for a 31-year-old.
Not even close, which is why LODIA goes much deeper into long-term stability. It actually provides premium-free health coverage for the eligible spouse and family members.
Wow, premium-free. When you consider the long-term bleed of medical costs for a family over a lifetime, having the state absorb that expense is a massive structural support.
It really is. And the state goes further into education, too.
How so?
Well, under LODIA, which has been on the books since 1972, Virginia provides a waiver of undergraduate tuition and mandatory fees at any public institution of higher education in the state for the children and spouse of the fallen officer.
Wait, really? Any public institution. So if Deputy Utt's children eventually want to attend, like UVA or Virginia Tech or any state school, the tuition is completely waived.
Completely waived. The logic behind that 1972 legislation is a recognition of the state's role.
Making sure they're taken care of.
Right. If the state asks a public servant to put their life on the line, and that life is lost, the state assumes a portion of the parental obligation to secure the future of the children left behind.
That's incredibly powerful.
And this state-level support interlocks with national and nonprofit mechanisms as well. The National COPS organization provides financial assistance of up to $2,000 per semester for surviving family members pursuing higher education once state resources are exhausted.
Okay, so they layer the benefits.
Exactly. There's also the Federal Public Safety Officers Education Assistance Program and nonprofits like Kids Chance of Virginia.
What does Kids Chance do?
They provide scholarship grants specifically to children under 25 whose parent was killed in a work-related incident.
We also have to look at the Virginia Workers' Compensation Commission, which handles the daily living expenses, right?
Yes, the day-to-day survival.
They mandate weekly payments to the family equal to 66 and 2/3% of the employee's average weekly wages.
But the fascinating thing is that this isn't an indefinite pension.
Right. Workers' comp caps at 500 weeks, which is roughly 10 years.
A decade.
Yeah, it's essentially a decade-long runway for the family to reconstruct their lives.
And that 500-week cap is entirely by design. It operates on the philosophy of a bridge rather than a permanent settlement.
A bridge to a new normal.
Exactly. It provides a decade of wage replacement to ensure the family does not face immediate poverty. It gives the surviving spouse time to grieve, potentially retrain, and re-enter the workforce, or adjust their living situation without the threat of financial ruin just hanging over them.
That makes a lot of sense. And workers' compensation also covers funeral expenses up to $10,000, right?
Right, up to $10,000.
But what really struck me in the COPS document is how the private sector interfaces with these public funds.
Oh, the funeral services.
Yeah. Dignity Memorial providers have a public servants program where they provide dignified tributes at no cost for career law enforcement officers who fall in the line of duty.
That's amazing.
And additionally, Wilbert Funeral Services provides complimentary burial vaults and related services. So you have private corporations stepping in to ensure that the $10,000 state allotment for funeral expenses isn't instantly eaten up by the basic mechanics of a burial.
It really represents a collective societal response. For you listening, it's worth considering the sheer scale of this. Organizations like COPS aren't just distributing funds, they are building a community out of shared trauma.
A community no one wants to join, but everyone is grateful for.
Exactly. They provide hands-on programs, counseling, and peer support. They can connect a grieving spouse in Virginia with a spouse in Texas who lived through the exact same nightmare 5 years ago, providing this psychological scaffolding that money simply cannot buy.
Today, we have mapped out a truly heartbreaking sequence of events.
Very heartbreaking.
We have a 31-year-old military veteran, Deputy Logan Utt, who was living his lifelong dream in law enforcement, gunned down on a Friday night while responding to what should have been a routine welfare check.
A simple knock on a door.
We have a second deputy who survived only because the kinetic energy of a bullet was absorbed by his ballistic vest. We have an intense multi-state, multi-agency manhunt underway for Michael Timothy Puckett, a 55-year-old man considered armed and extremely dangerous.
And a man who managed to be out in the community awaiting trial on new arson and explosive charges, despite a long history of firebomb convictions.
Which is just still hard to fathom. And finally, we explored the vast interlocking safety net, from the $100,000 line of duty act triage to the 10-year runway of workers' comp to free state college tuition that is right now activating to catch Deputy Utt's grieving family.
If we pull back to look at the larger implications, this deep dive really leaves us with a critical tension to ponder.
What's the main takeaway for you?
We examine the friction between the constitutional presumption of innocence and the immediate safety of the public. In light of Michael Puckett's extensive violent history and the reality that risk assessment matrices allowed him to await trial in the community on serious explosive charges, how must our justice system evolve?
Right. How do we fix the formula?
Exactly. How do we recalibrate these algorithms to better balance the rights of the accused with the life or death safety of the officers we sent to knock on those doors?
That is the structural question that hangs over this entire tragedy. It is the question that ultimately dictates whether the next welfare check is just a simple knock to make sure someone is okay, or another blindfolded step into a dark room.
Very well said.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration. If this deep dive helped you understand the hidden mechanisms behind the headlines, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who appreciates a deeper look at how things work. Follow the show so you never miss an update, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.